Will wet molded leather lose its shape if it gets soaked again? Let's test it. A viewer asked this on my Secret to Wet Molding Leather video, so today we're doing a real test. 2 hours, 24 hours, a finished stitch piece, and one worst case scenario that actually changes the shape. These pieces were wet molded a few months ago for my EDC wallet build, and I didn't end up using them. This is chrome tanned leather, which is usually less cooperative than veg tan for molding, so if anything, it should fail sooner. Here's how I'm judging it: crispness of the edges, depth of the molded pocket, and a simple fit test back onto the original form. I'm filming the before and after from the same angles so you can see any changes. I'll label these C for control, which I won't soak, 2 for 2-hour soak, 24 for 24-hour soak, and then my old wallet will also get soaked for 24 hours. Test 1. Room temperature water, no handling, 2-hour soak. Alright, 2 hours later, and side by side, it's basically identical to the control. Same edges, same depth, and it still seats on the mold. Now the big question: what happens after 24 hours? It's 24 hours later, and it's still mostly holding its shape. So the takeaway so far is soaking alone isn't automatically enough to erase wet molding. I'll leave this in the form overnight to dry off, and I'll see how it looks in the morning. Here's the wallet that I left soaking for 24 hours. It looks like how I expected chrome tan to act. The oils leached into the water, and the molded shapes have much less definition. But I have a theory. If I reload this with the objects that it was designed to hold, will it remold? I quickly printed a few replicas of the objects, and I'll reinsert them and let it dry overnight as well.
All right, it's the next day, and this tightened up pretty good. It's still a little wet. Well, these are pretty tight. Wow, it's real tight. I'm honestly pretty impressed. This molded back into its shape pretty good. It retained its stamps, even though it's chrome tan. Honestly, it cleaned it up pretty nicely. Got rid of a bunch of the pocket gunk.
After spending the night in the mold with the objects it's supposed to hold, it seems to have reverted back to the shape it was supposed to be. Yesterday we saw a little unmolding of the test piece and the wallet, but this wasn't permanent. Once they were dried in the form, it remolds right back into its shape. Same for the wallet. The wet molded pockets regained their form as well. I have one more test on these pieces. I'll soak the control for the first time, and only for 20 minutes. Now I'm going to force this into a completely different shape and see how it holds up. This is where wet molding actually changes. Water plus pressure in a new form. The leather accepted this new shape and the old shape is gone. So water alone isn't the enemy. One thing to note about water, though, is that it can pull oils away and ultimately dry out your leather. Once you've dried it off and remolded if needed, you can bring some life back to it by adding some heat. Here I'm using a heat gun set to 700 Fahrenheit to bring some of the existing oils back to the surface. Now would also be a really good time to condition your leather. And remember, this is chrome tan, which typically doesn't lock in a mold as aggressively as veg tan. So I expected this to lose its shape sooner, yet it didn't, unless I reshaped it while it was wet. So here's the practical answer to the viewer question. If your wet molded piece gets soaked for a couple of hours, you're probably fine. After a long soak like 24 hours, you may see some softening, but you can usually reform it by putting it back on the mold or loading it with the objects that it was meant to hold. With chrome tan specifically, expect the oils to leach and the definition to weaken more, especially in a finished item like a wallet or a holster. And if you reshape it while it's saturated, it can take a new shape. Next test, I can repeat this whole thing with veg tan and compare how permanent the molding is. If you want that, drop a comment. Veg tan, warm water, soap, salt water, what should I try first? Anyways, thanks for watching, and until next time, get out in the shop and try something new.